let's take a look at the part of the software we've mostly ignored until now. For this segment, make sure that your EV3 is turned on and connected to your computer. Here's a simple program that plays 3 sounds, all out of the animals section of the Lego sound files. First we have a cat purr, then we have a dog bark, and finally we have an elephant call. And we're already familiar with this download button right here. And you know that we can make it run, so let's see, let's go up a little bit. This project is called, there we go, JSK Software Example. So let me go in there, and inside there I have my animal noises program. So let me go in there and run that. The other thing that you can do is you can just click on this little download and run button. It downloads the program and then runs it immediately once it's downloaded. So let's just try this. You may be thinking, wow, that's so much easier than the whole download and press button thing. But I encourage you to avoid using the download and run button and to tell your students not to touch it. Why? Because if all your robot is doing is playing a sound, then the download and run button is no big deal. But if your program tells your robot to drive at full speed, you could end up with it dragging its laptop behind it off a table, and that's not so good. There's also this button down here that when you hover over it, it says Run Selected. You can pick just a couple of bricks. So notice I haven't selected the cat purr, but I hope on your screen you can see that dog bark 1 and elephant call, these blocks are highlighted a little bit in light blue. If I now run selected, it's just like the download and run button, except it downloads and runs just the bricks that you've selected, just the blocks that you've selected. I don't really like the run selected button either, for the same reasons that I don't like the download and run button. And I avoid explaining it to my students unless they ask about it. So let's look down here. This EV3 symbol above the download button confirms that our EV3 brick is correctly connected to the software. See, if I unplug it, you can see that red goes away. And if I plug it in, give it a second, it comes back. I hope you also saw this area went away. Right now I'm connected via USB. If I unplug, it just shows you there's nothing connected. So let's plug back in again. There we go. I didn't show you this earlier when we were talking about connecting up your EV3 because you need to already be in the project area to see it. Up here, this area that says Lego Robot is the brick name area. Right now mine says Lego Robot, but you can change your robot to say whatever you want. Notice that whatever's in the brick name area is actually, I don't know if you can read that, but it's right across the top of your robot. That's kind of your robot's name. So we could change this. I mean, maybe you want to number all the robots in your classroom, and so this one we'll call Robot 1. Oops. If you try and do a space, it'll give you this error that says, here's the only things that you can type as the name. So I did robot space 1. We can't do that. But I can do robot and then a hyphen and then 1. And as soon as I hit enter, if you watch up here on the robot screen, as soon as I hit enter, it switches to robot 1. This area down here gives you an indication of how fully charged your batteries are, this battery level, these blocks. I actually charged up my batteries right before recording, so looks like I have a pretty full battery. This wrench here is if you want to do a wireless setup. That's if you don't want to use the USB cable. We're going to skip that. Down here it says Open Memory Browser on this little kind of barrel-shaped graphic. We're going to click on that. and it says refreshing file list. And this shows you how much space you have left on your EV3 to put more things on it, as it were. And you can kind of double click and open up this applications. These look pretty EV3 like. I'm going to leave those alone. But if you look in projects, you can see that there's a list of all the projects that I've written that I've downloaded to this EV3. And if you take a project like Animal Sounds that I wrote earlier and I double click on this, it shows you all of the sounds, all of the programs, and any graphics also that have been downloaded. So I think the RGF files or graphics files, the RSF files or sound files, and these RBF files are actually your programs. The interesting thing about this area is if you ever fill up your robot so that your memory is completely full, you won't be able to download anything new. And so at that point, you may want to pick some old programs. Here, let me see. Like I have this Project 4, and you can click on delete. And if you watch down here, when I click on delete, it deletes it. And I have a teeny bit less space used up in projects, a little bit more space available. So we can also delete thing 2. So I will click on thing 2 and hit delete. Notice when you do this, by the way, that I'm just deleting from the robot. Anything that I've saved on my computer is still on my computer. At some point, your EV3 is going to fill up with all the programs and associated sounds and pictures that you and your students have downloaded. If you try to do a download and there's not enough space, the EV3 will let you know. And at that point, you'll have to go into the memory browser and delete some programs, images, and sounds. By the way, if you're inside of this memory browser area, you can see if I pick like my Animal Sounds project. And I go in, let me double click on Animal Sounds and let me click on my cat program. You can see there is actually an upload button here, but as we've talked about before, the programs that are stored on your EV3 are not in a format that can be edited on your computer. Lego gives you this upload option so you can copy something to another EV3, but that's kind of a pain. I say just leave this upload button alone. So let's just review what all those buttons do one more time. You're already very familiar with the download button. Now you know there's 2 other ways to download. You can download and then immediately run your whole program, or download and run just a set of blocks that you've selected from your program. Again, I recommend you never use the download and run button, nor the download and run selected blocks button, simply because if you never use them, then you're much less likely to end up in a situation where your robot runs away and pulls your laptop off the desk behind it. This area is called the hardware page, which is collapsed or expanded by clicking the arrow on the left. The icons on the left of the page are tabs for reviewing the information about your EV3 brick. Brick information, port information, and a list of available bricks able to make connections with your computer. The top tab gives information about the currently connected EV3 brick, like the name of the brick, the battery level, the version of the firmware used, the connection type. We saw USB on the screenshots. On this slide, we've shown you what it looks like if you're connected using Bluetooth. And also memory usage. That is, how full the EV3's memory is. For further details on that, this button opens up what Lego calls the memory browser, where you can free up space in your EV3's memory. Finally, one last thing I haven't really talked about yet is the EV3 help. And it's really pretty good. If I click on a block like this sound block, and then if I go to the help menu and say show context help, it pulls up just a little bit of information about that. So this is a sound block. If I click on the sound, if I click on this little area here, it tells me how the volume works and so on. I can also click on more information inside of this show context window, and it pulls up a LEGO Mindstorms browser with lots more information about the block than you probably really wanted to know right now. The other thing that's useful to know is even if you don't have, let me just click on this little X, even if you don't have, you don't want to look at context help, the other thing that's useful is just to say show EV3 help. Again, that'll pop open your browser and that'll bring you to the main help page. You can go into general and you can learn about things like how to get started and so on.